Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. And we're talking about Wuthering Waves today. And as a day one player and somebody who still thinks it is the best gacha game, or at least my favourite gacha game in the gacha space at the moment still, but it's got a lot tighter, that gap between my favourite and the others. I wanted to talk about the game, and as you guessed from the title, my kind of, I don't want to say waning interests. I don't want to say I'm necessarily burnt out. I think it's a culmination of multiple things, because I've spoken about this in my streams as well, that I'm not ignorant to my own lack of interest sometimes in things that I enjoy, even though I'm still enjoying them. Now, I don't know if it's because I've got ADHD or whatever it is, or I'm just somebody who gets distracted easily. I will find myself enjoying a game and easily get pulled away from it to do other things, and find months have gone by and I haven't played the game in that space of time. And I'm still logging into Wooer at the moment and doing my dailies, but I have been finding myself just not enjoying the game as much as I was before. And that's not that I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, Wooer sucks, I'm done with it kind of thing. I'm still playing the game, and I'm hopeful for the stream on Friday, the 2.2 stream, that there's going to be an injection of excitement for me with upcoming content. And that is the main reason why I think I'm finding myself a little bit lackadaisical with the game. And it's content, it's events, it's the actual variety or the lack thereof it in the game, in my opinion. I think, you know, you can say a lot of things about Wuthering Waves, but I think one thing it massively lacks, in my opinion, it's variety in content, in the combat of the game. And it feels like, for me, I said this in stream, the events and the modes in Wuthering Waves, it's like chicken and chips, you know, it's like steak and chips. It's damn good, right? I like chicken and chips. I like steak and chips. But each mode and each event is chicken and chips with some tomato ketchup, chicken and chips with some mayonnaise. I know they're not good combinations, but bear with me. Chicken and chips with some sweet and sour sauce, chicken and chips with some barbecue sauce. At the end of the day, it's still chicken and chips. That's a terrible analogy, but I'm using it again. I used it earlier. And that's kind of where I'm at with Wuthering Waves at the moment. Everything is feeling samey. And I always feel like your biggest enemy in Wuthering Waves, it doesn't seem like it matters what you're playing. The biggest enemy is the timer. It's not the enemies you're actually fighting. The difficulty in a lot of modes at the moment in Wuthering Waves, specifically things like Whimpering Waste, the Tower of Adversity, in my opinion, it's the timer. I don't really enjoy the tower. I think it is just a slightly better version of Genshin's Endgame, which is not a massive thing to gloat about, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it's kind of mid, right? And I think when it comes to games, and especially gacha games, Endgame is just, it's not important, it seems, to a lot of developers. When, let's face it, it's like 90% of the game when you've got through the initial start of the game. Once you're past the introduction to a gacha game and the bits of story, like any live service game, what does the game equate to? Endgame, events, multiplayer, co-op, PvP, whatever it might be, what the game focuses on. That's the main, like, meat and potatoes, isn't it? It's what you're going to be spending all of your time doing. And for me, the Tower of Adversity is just not that interesting of something to do repeatedly, and I just haven't bothered clearing it for a while now. I just don't find any enjoyment in it. Moving on to something like Whimpering Waste now, which is like the new Endgame. Let's face it, I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not going to be the last to say it, that it just kind of blows, doesn't it, really? I think there's definitely room for improvement, and it can potentially be fixed. But at the moment, it's not it. It's not it, is it really? Whether that comes down to, like, you know, RNG and things like the crit rate and that in the final part of the mode at the moment, just terrible AI and the way it acts, and it just, again, you're just racing against the clock in an unfun mode that's not difficult because the combat itself is engaging or intricate or nuanced, like something like the holograms. It's just literally race against the clock with enemies that really just want to avoid you a lot of the time, and I don't find that enjoyable. I just don't. If you do, that's fine. I just don't find that enjoyable at all. I feel like the holograms and the essence of hologram fights was like they they shine a light on the best parts of Wuthering Waves, in my opinion, because at its core, what makes Wuthering Waves great in terms of a gameplay loop for me is fast-paced, reactive, fluid combat that's heavily based around parries, dodges, and obviously intros, outros, your concerto, and team synergy, swapping into your different characters and stuff. But it always feels better when I'm against an enemy, such as things like the hologram, where it's like, right, this isn't about time, even though there's timers on holograms, but it's inconsequential. The main aim is learn the patterns, learn the attacks, work your way around the boss fight, deal with the aggressiveness of your enemy that can knock you out basically in 1 or 2 hits if you are, you're not on top of things. And every other part of the content in Wuthering Waves really doesn't feel like it gives you that. And every other event that seems to come out seems to be just that. Now, I really did like the fishing event in Wuthering Waves. I do think it was a little bit too much, though, if that makes sense, which is kind of crazy because I've been asking for stuff like that. But I think it was just too much of the same thing. This is going to sound crazy to a lot of people. I think the fishing event in Zenless Zone Zero was better than the fishing event in Wuthering Waves. It was a bit more balanced. It threw in combat with little story bits. The fishing mechanic itself was a better fishing mechanic. Now, it was really good that you could sail around on your boat and upgrade it, all of that stuff. I like that. It was basically Dredge, right? The actual fishing mechanic itself, you didn't feel like you was fishing. You're just clicking buttons. You didn't actually feel like you were fishing. Now, obviously, every game mechanic comes down to clicking buttons. But fishing in Zenless actually kind of feels like you're fishing. You're tugging against the fish. It's not the best fishing mechanic, but I just think it was better than the fishing mechanic in Wuthering Waves. And I feel like that mode could be fixed or maybe just even improved by having some ability to fish from the coast as well, where you're actually using a rod and it feels like you're fishing, and just maybe interspersing it with potentially some variation in the gameplay as well. Because after a bit, it does just feel kind of grindy and it loses that pleasantness that it has, because it really is a pleasant mode, and I do want to see it developed on, and I do want to see more of that kind of thing developed on within the game as well, that's non-combat, but maybe has combat, like I say, interspersed throughout the event, so it just balances things out, because I think the Zenless Zone Zero fishing mode, it did that a lot better. And talking of Zenless Zone Zero, I think at the moment, Zenless is doing variety much better than Wuthering Waves. I really do. Now, you might not like these particular events, but there's variety there. For example, at the moment, we've got the March on Tiny Titan event at the moment. It's nice. It's literally, you flip the view to an isometric view, so it's almost like you're playing something like Diablo or something like that. And you've got your Bang Boo with you, who's got his little machine guns and missile launchers, and it's about kind of like buffing him up and allowing him to do different things. And he kind of puts out a lot of the DPS for the mode, and it's kind of working around that, and it's a little bit different. Is the mode exceptional? Not really. It's fun. I like it, but I like this about Zenless. I want to see Kuro throw some things at the wall until things stick. I feel like everything just kind of feels like a different shade of grey at the moment for Wuthering Waves, and that's fine, because most of these shades of grey are decent, but they're just shades of grey. And I want them to take some more risks on some of the events. Now, some of them might flop and people might hate them and they'll have to go back to the drawing board. Okay, but I feel like that's a risk worth taking. And I don't mind having events where out of 10 events, 3 or even 4 of those events kind of suck if the other 6 are really varied and give something to the game and give me a reason to want to continue building my characters and playing the game. Because at the moment, I really have been losing that desire to go tackle modes in Wuthering Waves, because I know what it's going to feel like. I'm going to be rushing against the timer in a mode that's a slight twist on something that I've already done in the game. And I really would like to see more. It doesn't have to be holograms, but more of that content. And I get it. Holograms filter a lot of people. I also think timer modes filter a lot of people as well. Now, I know it's easier for people to obtain certain content when it's based on a timer, because it's more about stats rather than skill expression. Not saying things like the tower and Whimpering Waves and these other modes don't have a skill element to them. Of course they do, but it's a different kind of skill expression, if you know what I mean. It can be brute forced a little bit more, I think, anyway. Now, I might be wrong on that, but that's kind of how it feels. At least that's how it feels. There's going to be a lot of feels in this video, really, because, I can't quantify every single thing that's making me feel like this, and I think that's okay, because too much in the gacha space and Wuthering Waves space specifically, unless you're coming with cold, hard facts and receipts to back up things that you're questioning about the game, it's considered, well, it doesn't matter. And that's fair. I get that. Some people want evidence-based conversations to be able to say, that's an allowed opinion, that's not allowed. For me, sometimes gaming, it's an art form, right? It's something that I enjoy. Sometimes you can't always quite put your finger, or not even so much can't quite put your finger on it, but can't exactly reference how something makes you feel. And at the moment, Wuthering Waves is just kind of making me feel a little bit bored when I'm playing it. Now, I'm really looking forward to 2.2. I must admit, I've been slacking. I haven't even done the story for 2.1. So, I guess, people go, you just ain't that big of a fan of the game, whatever, But I am. I've been playing the game day one. Since day one, there's probably been a handful of days where I haven't logged in and done my stuff on the game. Prior to that, I've been doing all the content, clearing everything, pulling pretty much on every single character, pretty much, apart from Brant this time, and doing, majority of the stuff in the game, apart from a few companion quests, which I just haven't got round to, because I do play other games as well. And I've been finding myself off stream at the moment, and I'm like, right, what do I want to play? I'm kind of drifting towards Zenless more, Arknights, and just kind of playing games outside gacha as well. And prior to that, it was always WoW. I would get off stream and be like, right, let's go do some other content that I didn't get to do on stream, stuff that people probably wasn't that interested in. Let's go run some TOA back in the day, or let's go play some different teams or some solos on holograms and such like that, and challenge myself. And I'm even finding myself not wanting to do any sort of hologram stuff at the moment, because the rest of the game just is lacking, I think. And I know that's a crazy thing to say, because at the moment it's considered the best thing since sliced bread. And don't get me wrong, I do still really like Wuthering Waves. And I feel like any sort of dissenting voices at the moment are considered just, well, it's a Hoyo player. They're going to say that. I'm not. I do play Zenless Zone Zero, but I'm not. I am a Wuthering Waves player through and through. It is my favourite gacha game. But I just feel like Kuro are really not showing the game off for what it could be, in my opinion, in regards to endgame content and events. Take the new weekly mode, for example. I do think it's got a little bit better, but the very first incarnation of it, I thought was kind of ass. And I said this, and I had a lot of comments on my post just basically saying, what do you want, bro? It's extra content. You get a pull out of you. That's like 4 pulls a month, right? Okay, cool. Well, I think that shows where content's at in a game, where people are like, well, you get pulls out of you. If you took away the pull, would the content be still good? And I would rather have good content than 4 pulls a month, in my opinion. And as I say, that I do think that mode's got a little bit better. I think iterations of how that works, and depending on what you choose throughout that mode, does make it more fun or less fun. But yeah, I want more content in the game that doesn't, the bonus isn't, well, I got some asteroids out of it, right? I want something where it's like, dude, that was fun. I want to go again. And I feel like we was really lacking that sort of content at the moment. Once you've cleared something in Wuthering Waves, and a lot of gacha games do this, to be fair, I've got to be fair, I don't want to go at it again. I don't care to. And sometimes, a lot of the time at the minute, I'm kind of just switching off and mindlessly going through, to the point where I'm not even paying attention to buffs I'm choosing, mechanics within the actual mode, because it's just not engaging me. And again, as I said, I'm not solely blaming this on the game. I recognize that I think I'm just at a point at the moment where there's a partial, I don't want to say a burnout, but there's a partial lethargy with my feelings towards the game. That's why I've been playing a bunch of Arknights. That's why I've been playing a bunch of Zenless Zone Zero. I've just restarted playing Throne and Liberty as well. And I'm not going to stop playing Wuthering Waves, and I'm not going to stop making content for it. Again, cannot wait for 2.2. I'm hopeful that I'm going to be looking back at this video in a couple of days and being like, great, hopefully I'm not going to feel like that in the future, because I don't want to. I really like Wuthering Waves, and I want to continue enjoying Wuthering Waves. I just feel at the moment, you know, it's not quite doing it for me in a lot of areas, and the constant rerunning of kind of mid events for me, it's kind of like it kind of sucks, you know. I, I get it. We're going to be having big updates every 6 months, and I know people are like, "What do you expect? What do you want? They're doing this, they're doing that." But I want that sort of content that's supposed to fill the void in between major updates, major patches, new characters. You know, I want that to feel enjoyable, so I can feel like I can actually play the game somewhat. And I know people will say you're only supposed to log in, do your dailies, do an event, bounce. I'm not even feeling to do the event at this point. I'm even getting to the point where I'm only partially doing my dailies because I'm just like, whatever. I do most of my dailies, and then, you know, when you have to go get the 3 echoes, I'm like, whatever. I can't even be asked. Can't even be asked to go get the 3 echoes personally. So like, I just don't even bother with that at the moment. So yeah, I'd like to know what you guys think. Are you getting a little bit frustrated with the content in Wuthering Waves at the moment? Because I feel after 7 months now, I don't really feel like the endgame content itself, all the events have really progressed much. Now, Whimpering Waste, I feel like could be something really good eventually. But even still, I just think the fact that it's just like, I think maybe I want a little bit more than just fight in this arena against a timer, move on to the next thing, fight in this arena against a timer, move on to the next thing. Going back to like Zenless, some of this is non-combat. The Fall Guys PvP event was brilliant, you know? The racing event in Wuthering Waves was cool. I like the idea of it, but it kind of blew. Like, it really was as bare bones as it gets, right? You know, I've seen some content creators glazing that, making out that it's not just a racing event, it's you really, like, you know, you can mess your friends up and cause beef, and it's that good. And it's like, it's not. It's not. It's a really bare bones racing event. That's cool, I guess. It's a nice addition. I like them trying that. I'm happy for that. Like, you know, that's the sort of stuff I want to see them try. I'm just saying it didn't really hit. But continue to do that. Try different things. But again, in comparison to something like the Fall Guys mode, different kettle of fish, in my opinion. And I just feel like there's been some serious progression in Zenless Zone Zero in terms of events, endgame, you know, that sort of content that you're going to spend a bit of time doing. And I just don't think Wua has had such a drastic improvement in that side of the game. And I think it is a problem personally. Now, again, I might look back at this and be like, yeah, whatever. I was wrong. We had to give them time to cook. You know, that's the saying that keeps going around when it comes to Wuthering Waves. Give the devs time to cook. We're 7 months in now or more, right? I think I'm expecting a few dishes now that are like, ooh, exciting me. So hopefully 2.2 does that. And yeah. And let me know what you think. Are you getting a little bit bored with some of the content in Wuthering Waves? Is it a little bit too samey? Am I tripping? Because I feel like it is. I'd love to know. And yeah, I will be streaming the event, the live event on Friday. Whenever this goes up, this might even go up after that event, and I've watched it and I'm like, shit, this video's out of date already. So I guess we'll see. But I can only go off what I'm playing now. You know, I know there'll be the people who come in, because they usually do when I'm talking about stuff like this, where they've looked at leaks and they'll be like, well, actually, this is happening, that's happening. And I'm like, well, I ain't looking at leaks. I can only go off what I'm seeing right now, and I can only like base my opinion on the game on what I'm playing, not what's apparently coming out that's been leaked in Reddit or Twitter, you know? And I think that's fair to say, because some people do come at you like this. Well, if you looked at this, and it's like, I ain't, and it ain't out yet. Just shut the fuck up. But yeah, guys, I'd like to know what you think. Is Wuthering Waves suffering from a little bit of lack of variety at the moment? Because I think it is. Let me know in the comment section. And if you think I'm talking shit, hit me with it. I'd like to know. And I will see you all in the next one. I'll catch you later, guys. Ta-ra.